Good morning, brothers and sisters. My name is Brother Shantario, aka Midnight, and welcome to an episode of Reconstructing Minds Incorporated. As I continue to help my brothers and sisters overcome their own negative thought processes and understand that if we turn that dynamic around, we can see a better future. Because the overall scope is this. I want to be able to see the betterment for my brothers and sisters, myself, for my community, for my family, friends, and loved ones. But even more importantly, for Mr. Larry Hoover Sr. We have continued to campaign Free Larry Hoover Sr. now. That is our most important objective and goal this day. This morning, I wanted to come out of the blueprint in the introduction by Robert Emery Sr., 9/23/95. And what I want to talk about today in agreement with cognitive reconstructing is the subject freedom. Freedom. Freeing your dome. That's what true freedom is. That's what it means in the teachings of the blueprint. Freedom means free your dome. So I'll be reading from the introduction on page 5. And as I continue to read, I will comment on the introduction and how true freedom can really be cultivated within our minds and within our hearts. And this is the understanding that I have come to know about your mind and your heart. Okay? If you are shot in the head and they pronounce you brain dead in the hospital, your heart continues to pump. But because your brain is dead, the body begins to die also. Now, here is the dynamic of the heart. If a person is shot in their heart, the person's body shuts down. So the brain and the brain and the heart are synonymous of one another, because without the functioning or the brain or the beating heart, the body dies. So it is very important that we understand the true meaning behind freeing your dome, true freedom. The subject we're going to be talking about today is freedom. Okay. As I begin to read on page 5, the introduction in the blueprint, it says, the writing of this volume of teachings was inspired by prison inmates who have embarked upon a new direction, a direction of growth and development that will allow them to become socially accepted to society. Those who have instructed me in these teachings are persons who have evolved to a high level of growth and development herein. They shall be known as the leadership. The object of these teachings is to form a basis upon the positive, which positive growth and development can be built, and to expose a truth about ourselves that has been denied to the general public. So brothers and sisters, this is not just for us, this is for the general public. On account of the vastness of the new concept, its vision of love and prosperity, and the pressing need to make it readily available to our membership, it has become urgent that this book be written. However, because of the many new and mostly original phrases and terminology, the reader is advised to persist in his efforts to gain the utmost understanding of the teachings through study, observation, and application. As we all know, brothers and sisters, according to the teachings of the blueprint, that knowledge is the ability to grow and develop through study, observation, and application. So in order to gain true understanding of the teachings of the blueprint, we have to study through observation and application. The main premise of an organization is people working, thinking, and planning. People working, thinking, planning, and struggling together, all as in one. Okay? So when you hear the word struggle, brother or sister of struggle, struggle means movement. We are simply a movement of man and woman coming together, unified and consolidated for individual growth and the collective acceleration of the body as a whole. It says, yet one of our basic problems is the development of a program or process that will make this possible. The primary purpose of this book is to clarify our goals and objectives to build and train personnel capable of displaying the teachings and teaching the new concept to others and raising of our membership's educational, economical, political, and social awareness. Whereas the activities of our daily lives will urge us on and on towards the ideal set forth in the vision. Secondly, this book is an interpretation written with the specific intent of gaining the respect of our community and an interpretation based upon the display of these teachings in our daily lives. This is not an attempt. I want everybody to pay clear attention to this. It says, this is not an attempt to deny society to judge us as they see us. On the contrary, it is a statement to the effect that if we are to be perpetually judged by society as being a negative element of society, then we challenge society to aid us in instituting these teachings as necessary ingredients for a positive change. In all fairness, the right and capacity to make a positive change should be considered in the judgment of one human being by another. In other words, when it says, whereas the activities of our daily lives will urge us on and on towards the ideal set forth in the vision. In other words, brothers and sisters, what is letting us know is simply this: true freedom lies within the vision. There's a section on the blueprint called freedom, and then it's surrounded by the vision, knowing what the vision is really all about. Thirdly, the direction of the new concept will lead us away from premature death, incarceration, and recidivism. And for those who don't know what recidivism is the tendency to relapse into a former pattern of behavior. In other words, if you're thinking about going back to doing any criminal habits or living a criminal lifestyle, that is considered recidivism. And into understanding our true purpose in the world. Thus, the new concept contains the vision of that which we become in our daily dealings. As we know, it is only because of our leadership's love for us that such a proper and positive direction has been chosen. By accepting the new concept and displaying its principles in our lives, we can overcome the problems of premature death, incarceration, and recidivism. Once this is realized, the reason for choosing the new concept becomes crystal clear, and not to choose is to admit a desire to continue on a path of self-destruction. So anything outside of really adopting and adjusting to the new concept only leads to self-destruction, and self-destruction leads to death, incarceration, and recidivism, relapsing or going back to criminal habits and lifestyle. Once this is realized, the reason for choosing a new concept becomes crystal clear, and not to choose is to admit a desire to continue on a path of self-destruction. And that's what we don't want to do, brothers and sisters. We want to live righteous. If you want to live righteous, the meaning of righteous is to be just, to live in an upright manner, and to be virtuous. That's what being righteous or living righteous is really all about. That's what that means. Righteousness is from the root word right, which simply means this: you want to do the right thing. Like the movie said back in the day with one of the prominent Black filmmakers of all time. It says, and for those, I apologize, beloved, for not saying his name. And for those who don't know, that credit belongs to Spike Lee. Spike Lee. I don't want to be caught up in any plagiarism or anything of that nature. For those who want to know, if you're not familiar with who he is, he's probably the most prominent Black film director of all time, Mr. Spike Lee. Love and respect. Although this book was written in prison, it is not about prison. It is not about prison. It's from the inside out. Back in the day, the leadership formed or put together a letter talking about what's happening inside out. And this just confirmed that. It says, although this book was written in prison, it is not about prison. It's a much bigger scope to this, brothers and sisters. It says it is about freedom, true freedom. This book is about the deep longing, the deep urging that all people have to be free. It is about the universal desire to grow and develop into something or someone worthy of high recognition. That is what it's really all about. Taking the concepts, the 6 principles of growth and development, and applying them to reach higher heights and higher levels and high recognition within our society. I have a very vast definition I want to read to you about freedom. Freedom is simply this, brothers and sisters. Freedom is the condition of being free of restraints. Liberty of the person from slavery, oppression, and incarceration. Freedom is political independence. Possession of civil rights, immunity from arbitrary exercise of authority, exemption from unpleasant and onerous conditions, used with from the poorest man leisure demonstrated his freedom from long hours of hard work. Freedom, brothers and sisters, is the capacity to exercise choice, free will. In the famous words of John Stuart Mill, it says, the only freedom which deserves the name is that of pursuing our own good in our own way. Freedom is facility as of motion. Freedom is originality of style and conception. Freedom is frankness. Freedom is boldness. Freedom is an instance of improper boldness, a liberty, unrestricted use or access, the right of enjoying all of the privileges of membership or citizenship. That's what true freedom is really all about. Being free. Yet because we are caught in a fast-changing society, yesterday's dreams and aspirations have become further and further away. It is now just a struggle to stay in the race. But I want to bring some to our attention, and this is not about being a religious person or talking about a certain religion. One of the men who were used to construct the New Testament of the Bible was a man by the Apostle Paul. And I'm paraphrasing what he said. He says that I continue to press for the mark of the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. That was his words according to the scripture, but I'm gonna break it down to you in layman terms. In other words, he was saying this: don't give up on your race in life, whatever it may be. As we continue to campaign for Mr. Larry Hoover Sr., we should not give up. In other words, in the words of Mr. Larry Hoover Sr. himself, he said, keep swinging at him. Keep swinging at them. That's what that's what this campaign is all about. Keep swinging at the people who need to be swung on, and do it in a proper and productive manner. True freedom cannot be truly achieved without a fight. And I'm not talking about always using our hands and feet. I'm not talking about being combative. We can use our minds. The teachings of the blueprint tells us that there are spiritual sides of the man, and that spiritual side of us is our mind. Being able to think with our brains and utilize proper knowledge and education to do that which is needed. It says when people are incarcerated, progress is measured mostly by how close they are to getting out. However, our thoughts about freedom begin to dissolve as soon as we are out of prison. Because of this, most of us fail to grasp the true meaning of freedom. Now, I just read to you the definition of freedom, but not according to the teachings of the blueprint. That definition I gave you came from an actual dictionary, a Webster Paris Collegiate Dictionary to be exact. Okay. As we continue to read in the blueprint in the introduction on page 6, it says true freedom means to free your dome. Free your dome. Free your dome, brothers and sisters. Change the way you think. I was talking about cognitive reconstructing, cognitive mean thinking. We need to change the way we think. Some of us are still in the negative when it comes to certain things or certain aspects of what we are doing right to this day. And according to the teachings of the 360 cycle of life, that same energy that you put out, if you kick a cat, that same energy that you use to kick that cat eventually is going to come back to you. That energy represents karma. And if you're not familiar with that, look on page 67 in the blueprint. Okay. Some of us need to work on the way we think because we're caught up in negative thoughts. And I want to tell you or show you how cognitive reconstructing works in accordance with freeing our domes. Because that's what it means. Freedom means free your dome. And for those who are still walking around with this negative attitude, negative behavior, this negative outlook on life, this is how cognitive reconstructing works. Cognitive reconstructing works. It helps us organize. It helps us to get organized mentally. Just like making to-do lists helps us to feel more organized and less overwhelmed when we're working on a big project. Cognitive reconstructing, cognitive meaning thinking, helps us to feel better by getting our mental space better organized. It forces us to slow down. And that's what some of us simply need to do. We need to just sit back and slow down. Because some of us may feel like, or we may be doing too much or moving a little too fast. So cognitive reconstructing in in accordance with freeing your dome, it forces us to slow down. Every negative thought leads to a corresponding dose of negative emotion. If you can slow down your thinking and have fewer thoughts, you'll end up less emotional. And as I have stated once before in that first awareness session, in order to change the way we feel, we have to change the way we think. And in order to do this, we have to just take a little time and slow down. Don't rush don't rush the process, trust the process. It helps us to be more aware. Thoughts and the emotional reaction they produce can happen quite automatically. Cognitive reconstructing. Cognitive meaning thinking helps us notice and become more aware of our mental habits, which is an essential step in eventually modifying them. In other words, changing them around. It gives us a sense of agency and control. By noticing our default think patterns as just that, a default, and then generating new alternative thoughts, we change negative thoughts. We change negative thoughts, needs to figure out a way to change how we habitually think about and interpret what happens to us. And that's exactly what cognitive reconstructing, cognitive meaning thinking, changing our way of thinking teaches us to do. Identify, modify our default ways of thinking about things to be more flexible and realistic. That's the benefit, brothers and sisters. Being flexible and realistic. We have to reconstruct the way we think, change the way we think in order to free our domes. That's what true freedom is. True freedom means freeing your dome. As we continue to read in the introduction, it says, physically, our dome is our head, but mentally, our dome is our mind. And this is what keeps us going and coming back and forth to prison. Our dome is imprisoned by our love for the past. Our dome is imprisoned by desire to be glamorous in ways that are negative to ourselves and our community. Our dome is imprisoned by our lack of initiative and determination to learn skills or make positive use of the skills we already have. What is a lack of initiative? The lack of initiative is complacency. It says, most importantly, our dome imprisons our illiteracy. And brothers and sisters, illiteracy is our greatest enemy. Illiteracy is our greatest enemy. But in order to combat illiteracy, we have to put forth initiative, taking that first step without being told to do something, and pursue education. Get your GED, get your high school diploma, seek higher levels of education. Wage war, as it is said within the vision, wage war on illiteracy. In their relationship to incarceration, crime and illiteracy go together like a hand in a glove in a vicious cycle of recidivism. What is recidivism? Returning to that same pattern of life that got you into what you're, or got you into prison. That same life that got you into trouble, criminal habits, criminal lifestyle, going back, relapsing into that same old way of living. Crime is a tool, but illiteracy is the vehicle that guarantees us a free ride back to prison. If we continue to do nothing about our level of illiteracy, about our inability to compete successfully in the job market, and about our inability to display the proper context during a job interview, and in most cases, our inability to communicate the skills we do have, the result is obvious. Without a doubt, we will return to what we know best, crime. Freedom, brothers and sisters, means free your dome. To the Mr. Tough Guy who refuses to humble himself because he fears humbleness will make him appear weak, is a prisoner of his fears. As you will hear some people say, fear is false evidence appearing real, a facade, putting on an image to be somebody when we're destined for greatness. There's only three things that's left for us who've been in the prison system: death, incarceration, and recidivism, returning back to a criminal lifestyle. The Mr. Know-it-all who refuses to be wrong because admitting his wrongs will make him appear unintelligent is a prisoner of his own inadequacy. In other words, he doesn't feel good about himself. There's a issue of self-esteem, self-awareness. Or the Mr. Important who feels that he must be in the center of attraction, or the topic of the day in order to be accepted, is a prisoner of his desire to be recognized. And that's not what it's about. We should always remain, my brothers and sisters, humble and teachable, no matter where we're at in life. The blueprint is designed to help us overcome the Mr. Tough Guy image by humbling ourselves to the call of wisdom. Wisdom does what? Wisdom gives us the ability to apply knowledge wisely. Overcome the know-it-all image by admitting our need for more learning and a higher education, and overcome Mr. Important image by realizing recognition only comes through achievement. The more you achieve, if you want that high recognition, you have to be able and position yourself for great achievement. True freedom is not gained by merely getting out of prison. Rather, we must view true freedom as a lifelong struggle for growth and development. Therefore, the blueprint of the new concept is about growing and developing toward true freedom. With thus in mind, this book was written with the utmost importance of making society aware. Notice what it says now, of making society aware, involved and informed of what our struggle meaning movement, is all about. it doses no matter if we are behind walls or on the street. Our struggle is one of growth and development. Our movement, brothers and sisters, is one of growth and development. Beloved brothers and sisters, I hope we've learned something today. I hope that we will truly grasp what true freedom is really all about. Ask yourself, brothers and sisters, what does freedom mean to you? Love, honor, and respect to the leadership. Love, honor, and respect to all my brothers and sisters. This brings us to a close of our second episode of Reconstructing Minds Incorporated. Thank you for your time. May Allah keep you.